Divide, some people say UUCA, but the branding changed before I was here to UU Actual, so it's not confused with the 2,500 other UUCAs. But I'm noticing in our stuff
It's still saying UUCA. We know that was a big thing when we made the decision between congregational and the letter didn't change.
right. I know.
So people should be open to because people around this, we still use church. Right. We see that seed.
Exactly. See, right here it says UU Asheville, right?
Yeah.
And that's what, as I understand it, has been the case, plus our email addresses and whatnot here. But sometimes people just
Right. So in the Unitarian community, what you're saying, it makes sense. But when I'm speaking to people who don't understand Unitarian, if I just say Unitarian Universalist and they have no sense. It's a worship to have to say combination or something like that. What I usually
oh, right. Especially when I talk to almost anyone, but just when we're reading
Yeah.
out,
Yeah.
you should pick one.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah. I started dropping my blood sugar. So I'll be fine. And if I have some snacks,
I have some apricots in my office.
so I have some dried apples.
Okay. What a joyful noise. Good morning. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Whoever you are, whomever you love, whatever has called you to this place today in love, you are welcome, and we're really glad that you're here. This is a community for kids, for parents, for empty and never nesters, for sages, and for you. The best way to find your way into this community is just to return again and again. Share a cup of coffee, ask the curious question, and lend a helping hand if you can. Our regular members and friends make it a spiritual practice to be welcoming and to talk to at least 3 folks they don't know each Sunday. Isn't that right? Isn't that our practice? Right? Raise your hand if you do that faithfully every week. Okay, we need more hands raised. All right, remember to do that, but that's the way we create a welcoming community. And speaking of helping hands, this place is not possible without the gifts of love and service, as well as talent and treasure of the people who are its body. Now, of course, our staff and our volunteers work together just to create this as a space of welcome and inclusion. You can think about our ushers and our greeters, the people who make coffee for us. If you've ever made coffee here, would you raise your hand? This is a sacrament. Thank you. Thank you. All the people who teach religious education, our music makers, tech support, worship associates, we're so grateful. And I do want to make a special introduction this week. Violinist Finn Magill, who is here with us. Also, he wants to let you know that there is today a holiday concert he's participating in at 4 p.m. at the Cathedral of All Souls. This, by the way, is a benefit concert to help Beloved, whom we love. It is a free concert, but they are accepting donations if you want to support the work of Beloved. So 4 p.m. Cathedral of All Souls. If you have time, you might want to check that out. So we're grateful to each and every one of you, and if you're willing to lend a hand, you can let us know. We'd be glad to direct you. You can talk to me, or you can talk to Vinny, and remember, her retirement ceremony, her celebration is at our coffee hour next week. So just a reminder to be here to celebrate Vinny. And let me just see, we have a new teammate. I'm not sure if they're here this morning. Yes, they are. Why don't you come on down? We want to introduce you to our newest member of our team, Aya Gall, who is coming on down. Aya, who uses they, them pronouns, is our new admin specialist. They're going to be working with us on communications, finances, and the zillions of administrative tasks that we've been kind of limping along with since the summer. And so, Aya, would you like to say a hi or introduce yourself in any way?
Well, it is lovely to meet you all, and please stop by and say hi in the office anytime. I'm really excited to get into the position and dig into it, and to be back in Asheville. I'm a recent returner. I went to school here, if there are any Warren Wilson folks. But
yes. And has worked with UU congregations before, so they understand us a little bit. Thank you so much. And now let's take a little bit of a turn. I want to invite you into a deepening time. I invite you to take a few breaths, maybe feel your feet on the floor or feel the beating of your heart, and know yourself among people who love and care about the world just like you do. And these centering words are inspired from a piece by the poet Joe Poor. Let us remember today the sanctity of living. Touch our hearts with awareness of the glorious oneness of all beings, and fill us with awe for the wonder of the world around us. Penetrate our souls with the beauty of the earth.
attune our spirits to the rhythm of the seasons, awaken our minds with the knowledge we need to achieve a world of harmony and peace, and grant us the wisdom to understand that we can co-create heaven right here on earth, right now. So let us now hear our opening music.
Thank you, Finn. That was beautiful. And now, Aster and Victoria, would you come up to help us light our chalice? As we light our chalice, let us hear the words of Nita Penfold. No matter what they tell you, let it be about joy. Let it be about the sacred. Self-surviving? No, thriving. Shining your way to the knowledge within. Let it be about blooming, the unfolding of the universe through you, because the story of you begins 15 billion years ago with that first flash of being. And now please rise as you are able or willing to join us in singing our first hymn, 38, Morning Has Broken.
morning. I'm Jen Johnson, one of the religious educators here, and I'm going to share our wisdom story with you. I wonder if I might get 2 helpers with our Wonder Box this morning. Maybe someone who's not done it before. Yeah? Okay, how about you with the bow? And how about you with the stars and planets and perfectly aligned coat choice for our story today? Thank you. What do you see in there? Do you think you can hold it up for everybody? Together? Do you want to help? It's kind of big. Do you want to work on that together? Ooh, looks like a what? Kind of looks like a cape. What do you see on there? In the back, they might just think it looks black. Kind of looks like a rug. Yep. What about the sparkles on there? What does that remind you of? Stars and space? And your coat, yes. There are stars inside of the box, inside of the Wonder Box, too. What do you think that means? I wonder what our story is about today. Let's listen and find out. The story I'm going to share with you is about someone named Mariah Mitchell. And if you want to sit back there, you can, or you can stay here, up to you. It's about Mariah Mitchell. And I know some of our youth who are currently in Sandberg Hall, hello youth, might recognize this story. I know someone else I was talking to on Wednesday knows a lot about Mariah Mitchell. But he also learned something new when we were talking. So let's listen. Mariah Mitchell lived long ago in Nantucket, Massachusetts is where she grew up. If she was still alive today, she would be 200 years old, a little older than me. She loved exploring outside. She lived on an island, and there were lots of things to explore. Do any of you like exploring outside? Yes, me too. What do you like to explore? Outside. Faster.
Nature. I like to go in the grass and just roll around and pretend I was like a small bug.
Ooh, pretending you're a small bug rolling around in the grass. I heard nature. Anyone else?
Nature.
More nature? Me too. Even on rainy days like this, I like to explore outside. Well, Mariah... And worms. Worms are good on days like this. You can definitely find worms. All right, after church, I know what's on your agenda. Well, Mariah liked to go outside at night, and she liked to look up. What do you think she saw? Stars. Right on, Zaylee. She liked to look at the sky, and she liked to do this with her father, especially. They would climb the stairs outside their house. You can see some of the pictures that illustrate this. My story on the screens here. They liked to go outside and climb up the stairs on the outside of their house. They had a really old house that was 200 years ago, and they had a little landing on top of the roof with a railing around it, and they would climb to the top, and that gave them a really good view of the night sky, and they could look at those stars and wonder and figure things out. Sometimes they even looked through a telescope so they could get a closer look at the stars. There are colors on this sky rug, aren't there? Yeah. Mariah was a naturally curious person and had lots of questions from the time she was little, even the age of 2 and 3 and 4. She would ask questions like, what is that? And how does this work? Why does it get dark at night? Where do stars come from? How old are they? Why do they shine? How many are there? How far away are they? She had a lot of questions. Her parents tried to answer her questions as best they could, but no matter how many answers they had or said, I don't know, she always had more questions. She had an infinity of questions. Does anybody know how many that is?
A number that goes on and on. Never ending.
A never-ending number. Wow, you guys are so smart. She had decided, it's not really a number because it just goes on and on and on. She decided she wanted to study the stars when she grew up and become an astronomer. But you know what? So long ago, girls and women couldn't go to college and study. It was just reserved for boys and men.
My mom goes to college.
Your mom goes to college and teaches at college. I know that, yes. Thank you, Mariah. Well, you'll learn a little bit more. So anyway, Mariah had very supportive parents, and they encouraged her to keep studying, keep doing experiments. And so she did. She continued to read. She and her father would do calculations and projects and experiments to learn more about astronomy. Well, for her job at the time, she became a librarian, but her wonder about that natural world never ended. It was kind of an infinity, right? We said that. So she continued to go outside and look up. One night when she was looking at the stars, she saw something unusual. It wasn't a star, it was a comet, which was kind of rare to see in those days, and no one had ever seen that particular one before. She discovered it, and you can find it now. It's called Miss Mitchell's Comet. Because of her discovery and study and persistence and her projects, she was later recognized for her important questions and work. She became the first female astronomer. She also was an early advocate for the study of science and math for women and girls, and she encouraged that. So much so, and because of her study, she was invited to become a college professor at Vassar. So even though she couldn't go to college, she eventually was teaching there. So she encouraged other women and girls to study astronomy too. She was also active in the women's rights movement and anti-slavery movement as well. Well, she had always been full of questions about the natural world and about stars, but not just that. She grew up going to a Quaker church, and she began to ask, how do we know God exists? Because at her church, they had a set definition of what God was. How do we know what's true, she asked. Why are we here? Some pretty big questions, right? Some people gave her their answers, but some people didn't even like her asking those questions. We Unitarian Universalists love questions, right? We honor each person's spiritual journey. We believe it is good to search for truth and meaning and answers to big questions, and to wonder. Well, Mariah heard that at the Unitarian Church, because at that time there was Unitarian and there was Universalist, but they weren't together yet. So she had heard the Unitarian Church was okay with those questions, and she decided to join the Unitarian Church. So in that way, and in the many ways that she lived, she's a very important person in our history, our world history, and Unitarian Universalism as well. And it all started because she wondered about the world. It's pretty important to wonder, isn't it? Yeah.
So Unitarian Universalists, was it here when they were here?
Unitarian Universalism existed in a different way when she lived. And now we exist together as Unitarian Universalists. And this church wasn't here when she lived, right? I have a few wondering questions that maybe we'll save in our heads to wonder about later, but I'll give you those questions to think about. What was your favorite part of the story? Think about that. What kinds of feelings do you get from being outside in nature? What inspires you? And what kinds of big questions do you have? We'll talk about that later, maybe with the people in your home and friend circle. So thank you for listening to my story about Mariah Mitchell. Now, children, it's just about time to go to religious exploration, so you can start to pack up your stuff. I invite especially visiting parents and caregivers to go out with your children to meet their leaders for today and find out where to pick them up afterward. And now, congregation, will you help us sing the children out?
we're going to have to take a moment outside of the wonder of this space to make sure to take care of each other. If you have a Honda CR-V that is blue with the license plate JDD, your lights are on. But if you don't have that, I want to invite you to take a minute to enter into a space for meditation, prayer, or reflection. This, by the way, is my favorite prayer. It was written by John Seed. It's only slightly adapted. We call upon the spirit of evolution, the miraculous force that inspires rocks and dust to weave themselves into biology. You have stood by us for millions and billions of years. Do not forsake us now. Empower in us a pure and dazzling creativity. You that can turn scales into feathers, seawater into blood, caterpillar to butterfly, metamorphose our species. Awaken in us the powers that we need to survive all present crises and evolve into more eons of our solar journey. Awaken in us a sense of who we truly are, ephemeral blossoms on the tree of life. Make the purpose and destiny of that tree our purpose and destiny. Fill each of us with a love for our true self, which includes all the creatures and plants and landscapes of the world. Fill us with a powerful urge for the continual unfolding of this self. May we speak in all human councils on behalf of all life. May we shine with an inner fire that will spread rapidly throughout these leaden times. We call upon the power that sustains the planets in their orbits, that wheels our Milky Way in its 200 million year spiral, to imbue our personalities and relationships with harmony, endurance, and joy. Fill us with a sense of immense time so that our brief, flickering lives may truly reflect the work of vast ages past, and also the millions of years of evolution whose potential now lies in our trembling hands. O stars, lend us your burning passion. O silence, give weight to our voices. And now, into this time of shared silence, we lift up the individual prayers of our hearts. Amen. May it be so. And now is the time in our service where we share our joys and concerns. We do this through a ritual where we have two different vessels. In our bowl vessel, we scatter petals to represent the joys and the blessings of our lives, which we cherish and acknowledge, all that we're grateful for. And into the tall vessel, we place a little bit of salt, just a few grains, to represent the salt of our tears, the many sorrows and pains that we carry with us. And we invite you, if you will, we're going to make two lines down in the middle here, and you're welcome to come forward, choose a rock to place into one, or you may choose to put something in both. But then we do ask that, depending on where you are, if you'll just continue on straight forward and go around so that we're not trying to go back the same direction that we came. And for those of you who are at home, we're holding you in our hearts. You may want to type something into the chat, your joy or sorrow. Into the vessels, we also place an extra rock for those people who are not with us today in person, but whose hearts we hold every time we gather because we are one community. We also place these for Reverend Claudia and her brother Julio, who is doing better, still in ICU. They have gone back to New York to be with them and take care of families. So we hold all of these things in our hearts. And we also are going to light our peace candle because I know all of us long for a world of peace.
A world of wonder. That is the theme for our service today, in case you haven't already guessed. I am 9 years old and heading out into the dark night to call my cat inside. My hand, reaching toward the kitchen screen door, about to push it open, freezes in midair. There on the screen clings a giant moth, its pale, minty green wings spanning wider across than the spread of my own hand from thumb to pinky. Soft, feathery antennas crown its head, and yellow circles centered on each lower wing look like eyes with tiny black and white pupils and deep maroon crescent lids. A Luna, my mother says. I am dumbstruck, in total awe of this exquisite beauty. Never will I forget my first encounter with the elegant Luna. I'm 26 years old and sleeping on a night train that rumbles and rocks its way through the vast savannah between Nairobi and Mombasa on the Kenyan coast. My face is turned toward the window, and when I wake up, my eyes open to see there, loping alongside my window just 2 meters from my face, a large giraffe racing the train. Its long neck extended forward, its body rising and falling with the rhythm of its gallop. Its eyes are so close that I can see each strand of its thick, curly lashes. I am astounded, mesmerized, in total awe of its fluid, powerful motion. Never will I forget this close encounter with the graceful gallop of a giraffe. I'm 45 years old, and I'm working in my garden early on a May morning at our home on Plot Balsam Mountain. I'm stooped over, preparing soil for a soil bed for planting beans, when I hear it, coming from the woods, down by the creek, a whistling, flute-like song. I stand up, alert. What was that? And again it comes, a trembling, whirling, spiraling warble, like a thrush, but not like any thrush I've heard before. I stand there motionless like a statue in my garden, waiting, attentive. And again he sings, again and again. I am in worshipful wonder at this beautiful, ethereal song pouring out from the throat of a tiny little brown bird, the fairy of the woodland. Never will I forget my first encounter with the magical song of the Veery. I give you these 3 moments of wonder out of countless moments of wonder I've experienced in the natural world. Dig into your own memory for your moments of wonder. Revisit them when you need them. Carry them with you to your dying days, as I intend to do mine. May each one bring you, even now, a pang of rapturous joy.
You know, there is nothing more important than a story. If we're talking about great human truths, just nothing in human culture more important than a story. And you know, when I was a child, I was told a story. I heard it in school, I heard it on TV, I picked it up from adults talking, and I got it in the media. I read about it in books. It was a fictional tale, but I couldn't tell that at the time. The story went something like this. Once upon a time, there was a small blue planet. There were many creatures and plants and inanimate objects, things like water and rocks on this planet. But after a while, the hero of the story arrived on the planet. Human beings. Human beings were the only true intelligence on the planet. So of course they had dominion over the birds of the air and the fish of the sea and all the dumb animals, meaning not being able to speak. They were lords of the trees and masters of plants. They could dam the waters and fly to the stars. And they knew the great truth that everything which lives could be broken down into its smallest component parts and studied, and in this way completely understood. Only humans possessed true intelligence, and so we could, and we have, changed the world because we can. And why not? Of course, not all people in all places have told or lived this story, but that was the story that I learned growing up. I remember how remarkable it was when we began to talk about whale song. Do some of you remember those floppy plastic records that were sent out in National Geographic magazine of whale song? And it was like a huge, big deal. But even as recently as several years ago, if you had said to me, do trees have friends? Can they cooperate, communicate? I wouldn't have understood that as anything other than like a poetic turn of phrase, right? Very anthropomorphic. And today I know something that seems almost magical. Trees do have friends, and they communicate both directly and sometimes quite urgently. Peter Wollenben, a longtime forester, was walking in a beech grove when he came across what he thought was this mossy circle of rocks. And then as he examined it more closely, he discovered that it was the remains of an incredibly old tree stump. And it was green. It was clearly alive. He says, the interior had completely rotted into humus long ago, a clear indication that the tree must have been felled at least 400 or 500 years earlier. But how could the remains have clung on to life for so long without leaves, therefore without photosynthesis? That is impossible. I finally realized one thing was clear. The surrounding beeches were pumping sugar to the stump through root connections to keep it alive. Why are trees such social beings? A tree is not a forest on its own. A tree cannot establish a consistent local climate. It is the mercy of wind and weather. But together, many trees create an ecosystem that moderates extremes of heat and cold, stores a great deal of heat, and generates a great deal of humidity. And in this protected environments, trees can live to be very old. And now he goes on for the entire length of a book, obviously I can't share it all, describing the secret lives of trees, the incredible ways that trees form friendships, help each other, warn each other, and work together. He describes the loneliness that comes to some trees which have damaged roots or which for other reasons are isolated. And he describes how quickly trees can respond to threats. He says, For example, 4 decades ago, scientists noticed something on the African savanna. The giraffes there, second giraffe reference today, were feeding on umbrella thorn acacias, and the trees did not like this one bit. It took the acacias mere minutes to start pumping toxic substances into their leaves to rid themselves of the large herbivores. And the giraffes, they got the message and they moved on to other trees in the vicinity. But did they move on to trees that were close by? No, for the time being, they walked right by a few trees and resumed their meal only when they had moved about 100 yards away. The reason for this behavior is astonishing. The acacia trees being eaten had given off a warning gas that signaled to neighboring trees of the same species that a crisis was at hand. Right away, all the forewarned trees also pumped toxin into their leaves to prepare themselves. Now, the giraffes were wise to this game, so they moved further away to a part of the savanna where they could find trees that were oblivious to what was going on. You see, Wollenben had been in the logging industry, and he had thought that trees were inanimate, separate. He, like so many, thought of them as, a resource, meaning a resource for human beings. But, he says, you think differently when you know that trees experience pain and have memories, and that tree parents live together with their children. These days, I live in absolute awe of the secrets there are to discover about life on this small planet. I remember literally my jaw dropping in wonder as I heard Merlin Sheldrake, great name, right? Merlin Sheldrake, the storyteller who studies fungi, tell me that the spores produced each year, in 1 year, collectively weigh more than 500,000 blue whales, and that the fungal spores actually interact with the clouds to create raindrops or ice crystals that fall as snow. That's what fungus does for us. And at every turn, there are wondrous things that we're learning and a new story that we can tell. That story changes. In the newer story, we are students learning from a billion teachers, from the smallest microorganisms to the great interconnected and sticky webs that have life and languages that we are only just beginning to learn. And the question of language actually can be very central. When I was growing up, and when my older daughter Ember was a kid, now my teenager Mars, we all loved this book called Watchers, in which one of the main characters is a golden retriever who is also a genetic experiment and thus has been, in the book, made intelligent enough to communicate with humans. And the human main character eventually rigs up this system using Scrabble tiles so that the dog can spell out words and thus communicate in human language with the other character. And we all loved this story because we really deeply love this idea of being able to literally talk with a beloved dog. But growing up, this was a fantasy, right? It was just a fictional lab, a fantastical animal experiment, and it was all in the mind of Dean Koontz. But today, millions of people around the world know Bunny and other animals like Bunny, who is the talking dog. Bunny, a gorgeous black and white sheepadoodle, has a language set of over 78 words, probably more now, and they're all recorded onto buttons that Bunny can press, which she uses to talk to her owners. And of course, she can indicate things that you might expect, like walk or scritches, but she can also say, "Love you, Mom," or "Where, Dad?" Researchers are closely observing her and have been shocked as Bunny uses novel arrangements of words and properly indicates concepts such as time, saying things like "Dad, go yesterday," or "walk later." One memorable day, I don't usually talk about this, but I'm going to tell this story. Bunny stood for a long time near her buttons, and finally she pressed Mom. Her mother, owner Alexis, said yes, and Bunny said, Poop where? And at first, Alexis thought Bunny might want to go outside and use the bathroom, even though she wasn't using her usual combination, which she uses to ask to go out. But then Bunny again pushed the buttons and pointedly did not go to the door, which she would do normally if she was saying she wanted to go outside. And she would usually push buttons like Bunny outside poop. With surprise, Alexis realized that Bunny was asking, where does Mom poop? Laughing, Alexis said, Mom, poop, bathroom, and pointed to the bathroom. But with this small exchange, a new window had opened, you see. We have reason to believe, at least suspect, that Bunny had spent time and thought about her human mother, thinking about bathrooming, and realizing she'd never seen her mom do that. Curious, she asked the question. Now, Bunny is not alone. Many dogs, cats, even horses are now using language buttons to speak human. For a long time, we told ourselves the story that only what we call our close cousins, the primates, might approximate our mental faculties. You know, we adored Coco, the gorilla who learned sign language, who adopted a kitten. But now we have seen that the world is full of cross-species care and adoptions. We know that bees dance and animals as diverse as bowerbirds and cats engage in artistic design. Some of them paint. As we allow the possibility that all other life on the planet has its own inherent worth and rich interior life, we discover the world all over again, and we begin to understand anew that we are not so separate and apart from this delicate web of life. We are entangled, apart, just one piece of a dizzying and magical world. Within Unitarian Universalism, we have philosophical and religious inheritances that have always urged us to consider carefully our place in the natural world, from transcendentalists like Emerson, whose treatise Nature suggested the happiest person is one who learns from nature the lesson of worship, through the modern pagan movement, which proclaims, I, who am the beauty of the green earth and the white moon among the stars and the mysteries of the water, I call upon your soul to arise and come unto me. For I am the soul of nature, which gives life to the universe. From me all things proceed, and to me they must return. That's Starhawk. The lively presence of humanism within our movement also declares along the same lines. David Bumbaugh notes, humanism gave us a doctrine of incarnation which suggests not that the holy became human in one place at one time to convey a special message to a single chosen people, but that the universe itself is continually incarnating itself in microbes and maples and in hummingbirds and in human beings, constantly inviting us to tease out the revelation contained in stars and atoms and every living thing. A language of reverence for humanists begins with understanding this story as a religious story, a vision of reality that contains within it the sources of a moral, ethical, transcendent self-understanding. Our humanist siblings join with the great strands of theology within our tradition, like process theology. The Humanist Manifesto of 1933 declared, humanism believes that humans are part of nature and that we have emerged as a result of a continuous process. Process theologians such as Charles Hawthorne agree that there is a continuous process, but that humankind and all of life are co-creating that process, which we might call God. As Gary Kowalski notes, process philosophy holds that materialism is mistaken. Our universe is not an assortment of lifeless particles, but an ensemble of interrelated and dynamic happenings. And each of these events, from the energy that maintains a simple chemical bond to the complex flow of information that goes through a termite mound or a coral reef, is in constant change and interaction with all the others. Try to pick out one piece of the universe and study it in isolation, and you discover only that it is connected to everything else. In the image from chaos theory popularized by Edward Lorenz, that monarch, or maybe a Luna butterfly, fluttering its wings in Mexico, can affect sirocco's in the Mediterranean thousands of miles away. These are co-creative events. I am an event. You are an event. So is a bear, a rainforest, and the winding of the double helix within us all. All are active participants within the bigger picture. So that process theologian Charles Hartshorne would call that big picture God, a reality that includes all of us, but is larger than any of us. There is nothing more important than storytelling. What story we tell about ourselves, about God, about the human place and life here on earth, it matters. Our own historical and contemporary Unitarian Universalism tells us again and again that the story we must explore is this world of wonder, its mysteries, its hidden depths, its undiscovered languages of field mice and falcon, the compassionate care of beeches for their elders, even hundreds of years after the elder is felled. We are not here alone on earth, the only intelligent life, the only species that matters, dominion. We are cousin and kin, a part of the web of the world. And so in closing, I just want to invite you to really sink in and take in these words of one of the very best translators of this deep truth, Robin Wall Kimmerer. Now, Kimmerer can tell you about the counsel of pecans, the gift of strawberries, or the consolation of water lilies. She teaches us, in some native languages, the term for plants translates to those who take care of us. Know the ways of the ones who take care of you so that you may take care of them. Introduce yourself. Be accountable as the one who comes asking for life. Ask permission before taking. Abide by the answer. Never take the first, never take the last. Take only what you need. Take only that which is given. Never take more than half. Leave some for others. Harvest in a way that minimizes harms. Use it respectfully and never waste what you have taken. Share. Give thanks for what you have been given. Give a gift in reciprocity for what you have taken. Sustain the ones who sustain you, and the earth will last forever. May we remember to tell the story of a world made whole and all beings one within it. Amen. Blessed be. Aho.
To learn a song. I'm not sure we know it. If you do, then this is a review. It's hymn 238, Within the Shining of a Star. We're going to first listen to it. It's sung by Emily Joy Goldberg, and then we'll sing it. You can stay seated right now.
Within the shining of a star, we catch a glimpse of who we are. In every infant born, we see the hope of our nativity. The miracle of each new birth can shake and save the stony earth. Triumphantly, the newborn's cry strikes echoes from the waiting sky.
Please rise as you are able.
This is the time in our service when we like to give an opportunity to those of you who may be visiting for the first time to introduce yourselves. So if you would like to, we would love for you to stand and tell us your name and where you are visiting us from. And an usher will bring a microphone to you when they see you standing.
Hi, I'm Jen Walker. I live in Swananoa, and I am Andrea's partner.
Welcome. Hi, my name is Laurie Curtis. I'm visiting for Vermont for the winter because it's so much calmer here than it is up there at the moment. So I'm happy to be here. Welcome.
Welcome.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Abhi Levine. I'm here for a couple weeks visiting my folks from Brooklyn, New York. Thank you.
Welcome to each of you, and please join us after the service in Sandberg Hall for coffee and conversation. Our announcements ran as slides at the beginning of the service. If you missed them, please refer to Thursday's weekly e-news where you'll find them repeated. If you don't receive the e-news, please ask an usher to show you how to sign up or email us at information@uuasheville.org. We also have some additional announcements that might not have been on the board. We want you to be sure to remember that today after the service, we have a special guest, Santa Claus. Santa will be taking photos with kids, pets, adults, groups, anyone interested. These will be professional photos by Tobin Photography. Today's event is a special fundraiser underwritten by Joe Penno and Tobin Photography. You'll be able to have professional photos to remember this special holiday. And please also remember that this year, Christmas Eve is on a Sunday. So our family Christmas Eve service, with a special participation from our children, is at 11 a.m. that Sunday. And our holiday concert and candlelight service will be at 7 p.m. Bring your family and friends and join us. This month, our community plate goes to the minister's discretionary fund, with an emphasis on our ability for gift giving at the holiday season. The minister's discretionary fund supports members and active friends who have special financial needs during the holidays or all year round. Your support of this fund allows us to lend a hand to those right here at UUCA, Asheville, who may need our care and support in difficult times. The work and ministries of this congregation are entirely supported by the generosity of members and friends who are its body, and those who find us for an hour or for a lifetime. This is why we celebrate generosity each Sunday with music and thanks. You make it possible, and we give thanks for you. The ushers will now collect the offering. Thank you, Finn. For the gifts of your faith and wisdom, your attention and presence, your time and resources, we are grateful.
You can't deny that the world is full of magic when you hear something like that, right? Thank you again. We're so glad you were with us this morning. I want to invite everyone to take a moment now. We're going to rise as you're willing and able to do so to the peak of your physical and spiritual stature. Our closing words are very brief, and so we're going to be ready to sing Long Time Son. So if you're willing. These closing words today are from Carl Sagan, who reminds us, even through your hardest days, remember that we are all stardust. Now let us sing.
Yeah, I have different guests every year, and so this year it's Michael and Cindy and Should be great. Oh, I love them. Very fun